All right, everybody, let's kick this off with a bang.
Excuse me, sir. What is it? Well, it's just that, what? Come on, spit it out. The recommend or refute pick that Dixon has, it doesn't have a trailer. What do you mean? Like in a traditional sense, it's just music. What? They put a bunch of title cards over it. Well, just have somebody read the fucking title cards, okay? I don't have time for this, okay? We're trying to do the first recommend or refute of the year. Just get it done. Yes, sir.
All right, everybody, quiet, places, talents in front of the microphone. Let's do this right. Rolling.
Afterthoughts first recommend or refute of 2024. Take one. Apple bottom jeans.
And action.
Welcome to Afterthoughts. Welcome to the new year. This is our recommend and refute episode.
Recommend or refute.
What did I say?
You kept saying recommend in. You did it for all of the retrospective, and I never said anything. And now today you ruin it. Leave recommend or refute alone, Ryan. Anyways.
All right, hey, it's been a while since I've forgotten what it's called.
You remember to forget.
I was trying really hard before, and I was thinking about something else. So
baseball. Football.
Thinking about dogs playing sports.
That's all Ryan thinks about anymore. Just on a loop.
It is. It is. Yes. I am your host, Ryan King. And joining me, we have John Garcia. So you jumped in.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about you, Ryan. I know that you've been going to the animal shelters and asking them to see the batting average of the dogs.
And also Michael Dixon.
Oh, my God.
It's already off to a good start, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, we're going to be recommending or refuting some things
or refuting,
tonight.
Or refuting.
We will not be doing both unless John tries to pull some shit like usual.
Hey, I'm not going to try this time.
Yeah, we'll try to rein it. We'll try to rein it in. We got to get good. It's a New Year's resolution, John. We got to rein it in a little bit.
That's right.
That's why we put that shit at the end of the year. The October, the Halloween, September shit. We put it at the end, and then we'll come back. We'll get normal. So anyway, Dixon, what did you watch? Please tell us.
Yeah, so I just, I went home for Christmas and hung out with my mom for a few days, and I always bring a collection of Blu-rays when I go home and hang out with my mom, just the two of us, so it's like, a fun thing to do together to watch some movies. Typically bring mostly like old Hollywood stuff that is relatively harmless that she will be cool with. A lot of Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, that kind of thing, Barbara Stanwyck. And my favorite movie that we watched over the holiday season was Frank Capra's 1938 classic, You Can't Take It With You.
Throughout the years, very few productions have achieved permanent, lasting fame. Among these, many of Frank Capra's successes have found an enduring place. Who can ever forget these ones? It Happened One Night. Boy, the morning after, you should have seen it. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. Boy, did he ever. And of course, everyone found The Lost Horizon compelling. Now, Columbia Pictures proudly presents the famous Pulitzer Prize play adaptation, Frank Capra's crowning achievement, You Can't Take It With You. The greatest human comedy of our time. All right, who wrote this copy?
If you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, and you like it, you should definitely watch You Can't Take It With You. This is 8 years prior to It's a Wonderful Life, but there are a lot of those ideas of Frank Capra in You Can't Take It With You. The concept of the common man versus the banker, socialism versus capitalism, good versus evil. Those types of ideas are very much in this movie. It's a young Jimmy Stewart playing a kind of a quasi-lead role. There are kind of several lead characters. There's not necessarily one particular protagonist, which I thought was interesting. Jimmy Stewart plays the son of a wealthy bank tycoon. This bank tycoon thinks that Jimmy Stewart is going to take over his business from him, but is totally blind to the fact that Jimmy Stewart has no interest in his father's business and is kind of just begrudgingly working there because he is expected to do so. Meanwhile, he falls in love with his secretary, played by Jean Arthur, who was a massive movie star of the time. Jean Arthur is the part of a very artistic, bohemian, weird family that lives in this house owned by her grandfather. His daughter is like an artist who writes novels because a typewriter was accidentally delivered to the wrong address, and now she just writes books for a living, or a living, really more for fun. Her grandfather runs this house in the style of, he's like, I worked a 9-to-5 job 30 years ago, and I got tired of that shit. Now I just do whatever I want. And he has the house paid off, and he just allows everyone who lives there to kind of pursue their dreams and whatever they want to do. So his daughter writes books. Her husband makes fireworks. Their daughter has a job at a bank. She's like the only person in that household who actually has a normal job. There are also just random people. There's like a milkman who came by 9 years ago and never left, that just like makes toys and just random shit like that.
Dude, rad.
So the premise of the story, Jimmy Stewart's father is played by Edward Arnold. He is this bank tycoon, and he is determined to buy up this massive 12 square block area in Manhattan to build a munitions factory, because it is 1938. And with all the chaos going on in Europe at the time, he's like, hey, the way to get rich in 1938 is to build a massive ammunition factory. And he is bound and determined to be a war profiteer and to just become even more rich than he already is. The problem is there is one house in these 12 square blocks that will not sell. And that house is owned by Jimmy Stewart's love interest's grandfather, who runs this household of random artists who do whatever they want. They don't realize this is the dynamic, right? So Jimmy Stewart is dating this girl. He doesn't realize that her grandfather is the holdout to his father's empire building. And that leads to a lot of hilarious antics that occur when the families meet, as Jimmy Stewart is thinking about proposing to his girlfriend, and the families meet and they have this crazy dynamic that occurs. The grandfather who runs this bohemian artistic household is played by Lionel Barrymore, who is Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. And it is just an absolute joy to see him play the exact opposite character of who he played in It's a Wonderful Life, where instead of being the evil banker capitalist, he is the artistic holdout who doesn't care that the evil banker wants to offer him way more than his property's worth to build an ammunition factory. He's like, no, like, I've lived here for decades. We're staying. We're not leaving. We're going to run this little artist camp here at our house. You can go fuck yourself. So it's a very interesting dynamic. A lot of these ideas that Capra talks about in It's a Wonderful Life. There's a lot of great comedy scenes in the movie. There's, we invite Jimmy Stewart's parents over for dinner, and comedy ensues because all this random shit is happening where these artists run in and like launch the new fireworks that they just made, or like decide to pose for paintings during dinner, and all of these crazy things that happen. And it's just like, it's really funny, but it's also very poignant about late 1930s America with the Depression and the upcoming war. And it's a very interesting film. It's based on a play that was written not too long before that. I think it maybe 2 years before, and Capra bought the movie rights and turned it into this film. But I really enjoyed it. If you like It's a Wonderful Life, it's definitely something that would be up your alley. So John, I definitely recommend you check it out. Ryan, you've seen this movie, right?
I've seen it a few times, definitely multiple times. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It's actually one, it's funny that you brought it up. I was going to say like, oh man, I was thinking about that. That was one of the movies I was thinking about going back and pulling for my family to watch, because yeah, especially it's a time period in Frank Capra, like it's watchable by anyone. I'm glad to hear that it has held up, that it's still good. But yeah, no, I definitely remember, and I do think that going back, there's gonna be some things, knowing kind of like I'm a lot older. It was stuff maybe back in high school when I watched it, but knowing this is before World War II, and I remember some of the discussions of like communism and the way the world has changed from like accepting all to like bomb us, what does he say? Something like, he's like, think like we think or we'll bomb you, which is, I guess, that someone recognized that back then, but that we're still in that same mentality, that there's
that's
still...
official U.S. foreign policy right now.
Yeah, that's what it's been.
How we operate as a country.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I remember it fondly. So bringing it back up, I have thought about watching it recently. So yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into it. I love Capra. From everything that I've seen from Frank Capra, he can do no wrong, as far as I know yet. I haven't found something that I haven't liked.
I don't love Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I know you don't, but I do.
I get what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But a movie that is, praising the filibuster feels a little bit dated to me. But
it is. Yeah. It has that optimism of like, that there were tools that were meant to be used with good nature and good intent and could stop. But yeah, I agree. There's a bit of that.
It's the optimism of Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
It is. I'm just a bill. Yeah, I'm only a bill.
I'm looking at the "You Can't Take It With You" poster, and it looks like the poorest attempt at a Photoshop I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah,
but I'm not gonna take that at any face value. I know Capra's good for it, but that poster, it's kind of funny to just look at it and be like, "There's so much empty space." I bet they were just like, yeah, "Just fuck it, put all these Hollywood stars on here, put the stable on here."
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like, it's a schmaltzy Capra movie, but I think Capra's movies get boiled down to be more simplistic than they actually are. People talk about his movies like, oh, he's this idealist. He's like he doesn't really understand how the world works. And it's like, oh, if you want to get caught up in, a great, feel good movie, go watch a Capra movie. But like, people almost talk down to Capra. And I think he is just so much smarter and better than that. Yeah. And it's just disappointing to me how we talk about Capra in modern terms. Like, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't like It's a Wonderful Life. But aside from that, like, I feel like the modern discourse on Capra is, he just was this idealist, whatever. Like, he's kind of naive. And I don't think that's what Capra is at all. If you watch his films, I think he's very aware of the time that he lives in and the political ideologies that are going around at the time. And like, in the 30s, like, socialism was actually very popular in America. And like, a lot of people like believed that until, Russia became the enemy and you couldn't believe that anymore. But like, he takes a lot of the political ideologies that are going around in Depression era America and makes movies that actually discuss them in a coherent way inside a setting that feels realistic in a family that has to kind of deal with these things. And it's like, not everything in You Can't Take It With You feels realistic because it's this crazy artistic family that, lives in this house. And like, one of the opening scenes in the film is Lionel Barrymore going into a realtor's office who's trying to buy his house and like just walking up to some random dude at a typewriter being like, "You like this job? What do you really want to do?" And he's like, "Oh, I like building toys." And he just pulls out a random toy under his desk. He's like, "Why don't you quit your job and come live with me and just build your toys for a living?" It's like, there's stuff like that it's like, it's not everything feels like a realistic, real world family, but the ideas that are being discussed feel like things that a real family would be talking about at the time. And I think the way those political ideologies are portrayed within the context of a family trying to work things out and understand where they fit in society and how these things come together, I think Capra does that better than just about any filmmaker that I've seen.
Yeah, it's not, you can totally explore really interesting things in these idealistic ways. And even as you say, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, what they're talking about with the political system, the idea of, I mean, honestly, we talked about it recently, what public land should be, what it should be used for. Like, there are all interesting discussions there about how the system works. The way they fix it, questionable, maybe. And yeah, is it like realistic or whatever? Is it the idealistic thing? Sure. But I also think like some of it is looking through a lens of far from the time period, looking back and saying, that essentially was like you know, if you look at Mr. Smith, there's some sort of New Deal philosophies in there before the fucking war has happened. It Happened One Night is a very sexy movie.
Yep.
And pushing a lot of lines and boundaries for what it was. Then the whole concept of like your character was going to commit suicide and we're going to talk about it. And,
It's a Wonderful Life is so much darker than people.
Yeah, it's so dark. Yeah. And I also really love Arsenic and Old Lace.
Yeah.
I've always thought that movie's absolutely hilarious, but it's also like, it is a dark comedy, like really thinking about it. Like it's played completely for laughs, but you're like, wow, this is a bunch of problematic people here.
Yeah, and it's wild to me that people talk about Capra as if he is this idealistic American family man filmmaker who just makes things that are like, here's this classic American ideal. Like that's not him. He was a subversive filmmaker who kind of like undercut a lot of the common ideas at the time. And his movies have feel good, happy endings. And so therefore people associate his films with schmaltz, and that's not what they are at all.
I feel like he and Preston Sturges have like a bonded brotherhood.
Oh, interesting.
In their old Hollywood, they both just have these like sharp eyes for the things that were going on at the time that are like timeless struggles for humanity. Because I mean, that's like the thing. If he had been somebody who was as tame or subdued as it's kind of presented in the public, of like, It's a Wonderful Life is a feel good family movie, that shit would have faded so fast because the cultural zeitgeist changes, between decades. But it's not. It's so dark, and there's such a heavy tone to it, but like a meaningful message behind it, that it has lasting power. And that's just a lot of Capra. And I feel like a lot of Sturges too. But yeah, it's interesting to think about that, and that kind of like compared to now. We already talked about the holdovers in the previous episode, and how like, I feel like a lot of people always try to claim that this is the new Christmas classic. And like, Christmas classic is, to me, something that reflects on all of humanity. Like that just is something that becomes a story that gets told year and year again. Like it can't just have Santa and snow to make it a Christmas classic. That's fucking weak. So, yeah, it's interesting. I do want to see this. I got to catch up with more of my Capra, I suppose, because I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen some of the other titles that he's made. I haven't even seen Arsenic and Old Lace.
Have you seen It Happened One Night?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, have you only seen It's a Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life, and I feel like they're Mr.
Oh, and
Smith
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah, just those. I think just those.
The original Mr. Deeds Goes to Town.
I think I did see that.
I have not seen that one.
Mr. Deeds. It's
okay.
That one's pretty idealistic.
Yeah.
I definitely that's on my short list of Capra movies to watch. I watched a movie earlier this year from him from 1932 called American Madness that is about a bank run, and it's like very much like, oh yeah, he did this in It's a Wonderful Life. It's Walter Houston as the lead, and it's like it's pretty good. It's 32, so it's very much in the Depression has just started and all this shit is happening, and FDR hasn't even been elected yet. And like it felt like he was always on the pulse of what was going on in American society and making movies about what real people were having to deal with in their lives because of all of the Wall Street fraud and all these terrible things that were going on at the time.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
right.
That's all I got. That's a recommend for You Can't Take It With You.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, John, let's that was a good movie, a good classic movie. Let's try.
Wow, what are you trying to set me up for?
What do you have, John? What do you have for us?
Well, I mean, I feel like thematically, in terms of something that tries to make a big, bold statement and tell people, grabs the audience and it shakes them and says, you gotta do this, think about this, live this way. I, for whatever fucking reason over the break, was reminded of Pleasantville from 1998.
There's a place where life is simple. People are perfect. And everything is black and white.
Honey, I'm home.
It's a place that's as far from reality as we can imagine.
How about some marshmallow rice squares?
Those are swell.
But maybe it's a lot closer
Let me see that.
than we think.
We're in Pleasantville?
No!
We're supposed to be in school.
We're supposed to be in color?
What's all the commotion?
Who's that?
I didn't think you'd want to come here until we'd been pinned for a little while.
You can pin me anytime you want to.
From the creator of Big and Dave,
What are you doing to these people? You can't do this to them. You're messing with their whole universe.
Maybe it needs to be messed with, David.
comes a story about the loss of innocence. New Line Cinema presents
Look at my face.
It'll go away.
I don't want it to go away.
So what's going to happen now?
I don't know.
Pleasantville.
What are we gonna do, Bob? Well, we're safe for now. Thank goodness we're in a bowling alley.
So the synopsis for Pleasantville is Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon are brother and sister who are supposed to be teenagers, but they're like clearly over the 20s mark at this point.
Yep.
This is prime Tobey Maguire, playing age way under his age.
Exactly.
Time period,
there's like a TV Land network that only plays all the old classics like Leave It to Beaver and whatever else, and they play Pleasantville, which has like William H. Macy and Jeff Daniels are somehow in this. Sure, whatever. That's the fictional world they live in. And Tobey Maguire, there's some kind of trivia off going on that's going to come up soon, and he can win $1,000 if he knows everything about Pleasantville. And he and his sister get into a fight over the remote one night because she's about to have a boyfriend over that she's going to and she wants to be there to do that, and he wants to fucking watch Pleasantville. And they fight, break the remote. Don Knotts shows up. The corpse of Don Knotts shows up in this movie, and he fixes their remote. I assume that this is where Adam Sandler got the idea for Click. And Don Knotts transports them into the world of Pleasantville, this black and white suburban neighborhood from the 50s that has only white people in it. After a while, they start to discover that they are changing this world and colorizing it, and it creates a rift socially. This is the feel-good anti-bigot allegory in which colored white people teach white people that the worst thing a white person of any color can be is inauthentic.
Oh my God.
It is like, I've seen a lot of reviews that are like, it's pretty bold, this movie, taking on the topic of racism, especially using only an all-white cast.
What if you were authentic to your genocidal self?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where things break down for me with this, is like, part of it is that allegory. They even start calling the white people who have color colored people, and it gets even weirder from there. And becomes this whole thing of like, the town is like, we're going to do a book burning and all this other fucking fascist shit's going to happen because some white people had sex and got colored, which is, it's just so fucking weird to talk about.
Doesn't that, I was going to say, what I distinctly remember is, doesn't the lady masturbate a tree on fire?
Yes, she does. The mom of this wholesome family talks to her daughter, who's played by Reese Witherspoon. So like, Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire become the like son and daughter of this immaculate nuclear family. And Reese Witherspoon just decides she's gonna fuck her way to the top of all of the jocks, and she like colorizes the town by showing the jocks that there's more than the wholesomeness that they knew in their like 50s fucking America, which is like its own thing. I don't even fucking know how to approach that topic.
Like basically, like, once you lose your virginity, you can see color in the world.
And things start to be colorful. And she teaches her mom to masturbate, and her mom masturbates.
Oh my God.
And an entire tree lights on fire. It's like Moses, like the trying to talk to Moses in the desert or some shit. It's like, it's got these funny aspects of.
Is that an allegory for an STD?
Yeah.
Burning bush.
Yes, it is. It's just, it's weird because it's got this mixed up aspect of like, there's like a racial allegory and a feminist allegory, and it's kind of like railing against this nuclear family of the 50s, but it's doing so in a way that doesn't mention anything about other ethnicities. And so like, there's a whole sequence where they're sitting in a diner and these kids are like, oh my God, this book, it just started filling in all the pages the moment somebody started talking about what it was about. It's like Huck Finn. And Tobey Maguire's like, oh yeah, it's about this kid who like goes with a slave and he rides nobody asks a question about the slave. Nobody gives a fuck about the slaves. But the moment that they talk about anything else, they're like, apples that are colored red? Like, what's that about? And I'm like, okay, come on. Like, this fucking town, they've got to at least ask, what's a slave? Or like, I don't even know. It's just Pitch Perfect apple pie America.
The 1950s knew about slavery. They just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, they just didn't talk about it. And so nobody asked any questions.
The 1950s is just the result of white flight to suburbia. Like, they definitely knew what they were doing.
They just don't talk about any of that. And instead they focus on the allegory of like colored people versus black and white people. And everybody's white in this context, obviously. And it felt like the moment that it ended, I turned to Sasha and I was like, that was the Green Book of 1998. Like, that's just one of that fucking things where you
Did someone eat a whole pizza in a scene that happened?
And it just didn't make any fucking sense to me. And Sasha had questions about like, why she was like, why is Reese Witherspoon staying in Pleasantville by the end of it? She stays there because she gets a college scholarship in Pleasantville, which before the movie started, this is me going into Ryan territory.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Before she even like gets that college scholarship there, Pleasantville doesn't know anything about any other town because they're like, what's outside of Pleasantville? We've only ever lived in this fucking white suburban heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, I'm going to stay here and get higher educated because I've wasted my life in the real world. And I was like,
that sounds like a horrible ending for that character.
It's so awful for that. And Don Knotts, even though he's the one who sends the siblings into this world, at one point he's like, you're getting out of hand, Tobey Maguire. You're teaching white people to be colored. And like, that's not okay. And they have that whole sequence. And Tobey Maguire goes, fuck you. I'm going to teach these white people to be colored. It's going to be the best thing. They need to learn how to live in this assimilated society.
You get out of here with your rap music. God damn it.
And Don Knotts can do nothing about it. And it just lets the movie go on, which is bizarre. Like, I thought he was a god of television, but he's not. I don't fucking know what the fuck's going on with it. So Pleasantville, when I revisited it, it's like middle of the road. I would refute it unless you really want to watch a movie in which a bunch of people set out to make progressive points and they fail to make each of them and instead make a grandstanding Green Book-esque experience. So
the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, the late 90s. Yes, there you go.
Is Andy Griffith in this movie?
He is not. I think Don Knotts is the only remnant of any Andy Griffith experience.
Is Ron Howard in this movie?
There's no Opie.
No,
sorry.
okay.
No Opie at all. Although I would welcome a Ron Howard narrative for Tobey Maguire going through the world. Tobey thought that he could make a difference if he did this. He was wrong. That'd be pretty great. But yeah, so Pleasantville, it's not as good. If you watched it and you vaguely remember it, it's not as good as you remember, and just don't go back. It's fine. They don't talk about a lot of things, like Jeff Daniels has an affair technically with the mom of the nuclear family, and nobody gives a fuck about that shit, even though he paints her naked ass body onto a wall and shows the neighborhood that. It just becomes more of like a be authentic. I will say this ends in a courtroom drama where they're prosecuting Jeff Daniels and Tobey Maguire for bringing color to the neighborhood.
Oh God.
And the main guy who's prosecuting them is like, basically, he's like the mayor from Jaws. He's like, we can't, we're about to have the black and white festival. We can't have color in this town. And
does he have anchors on his blazer?
He might as well. Yeah. And he sits up there and Tobey Maguire just goes, what do you want to do to me? In this really fucking creepy way.
Oh.
And he goes, I want to fucking throw you behind bars like the animal you are. And then suddenly he's colored. Like, just for saying that. And that's where the message got mixed up, because up until then, everybody who has color in them has been true to themselves. And this guy is a fucking hate-mongering, fear-mongering piece of shit who just decides he wants to crucify a bunch of kids for bringing some flavor to the neighborhood. And they colorize him, and he is like, well, I guess I can't argue with anything else. I recuse myself from this. And just fucking like the whole neighborhood's like, all right, it's awesome. Everybody can be colored now. Just such a fucking weird contradiction of everything the movie set up until then. But it just needed to end, so it did. So fucking whatever.
This movie has a 71 Metacritic score. And this seems like something that like a bunch of white critics in 1998 were like, oh, this is great. And like, this sounds like a horrible movie.
It
like,
is.
I can't imagine really any redeeming qualities in
the
this.
only redeeming quality is the actual black and white to color effects are really fucking cool. Like watching people change or the universe kind of change slowly over time. Just clever, really inventive. Nice. I wish they would have done it for something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I feel about Pleasantville.
Yeah. As a white man who experienced 1998, I think we felt like we had solved anything and everything and had no real problems left. Was kind of the feeling there towards the tail end of the century. And probably even a little higher after we got through Y2K. And 2001 definitely was a change. I can definitely go back and watch movies prior to September 11th and be like, yeah, we thought things were great and things were always going to be great. And then like the whole generation woke up to like, oh, now we have our shit. I always look back at, and I still think Fight Club is a good movie, but some of the message of Fight Club is different. It rings different, even the beyond the like dorm room poster. But specifically, Tyler Durden at one point is like, we have no Great War. We had no Great Depression. We like our generation is the lost generation or whatever. And I was like, then that fucking generation got into multiple wars and a worse depression and crashes. And like, it's totally turned the corner and we're good. We're all good now.
Yeah.
All of these things. But yeah, you go back and watch it and it is like an idealistic thing about how we solved being idealistic. Like it's just crazy.
Fucking wild.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole thing of like the Clinton era, right? It's like we were post history.
Yeah, we did it,
and we had like the history.
We elected the first black president, Bill
right?
Clinton.
Exactly.
Like, we did
he plays
it.
the saxophone, therefore
there's nothing he could possibly do for incarcerated people that would be bad.
Yeah, no, it's not like he was just Ronald Reagan in sheep's clothing. But yeah, like that was the discourse at the time. Was like we're post history. We're like all the wars are over. We just like we're in a new empire where we just get to do whatever we want and everyone's cool now. And that lasted for about 3 seconds.
My God, Ronald Reagan in sheep's clothing just fucking got me.
That is Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You can just call me Dutch. Oh my God. Well, Ryan, what do you got to round us out?
As much as I would like to talk about television shows or some random bullshit or whatever, try to rein myself in here at the beginning of the year and talk about an actual movie. It will be a bullshit kids movie that my kids made me watch. So there.
Very in character.
I'm getting something. I'm still getting something. Yes.
There you go.
We watched Christmas movies of whatever was being kind of hawked at us by all the different streaming platforms. I mentioned in our year-end review, I watched The Naughty Nine. That was Disney's new Christmas movie. Kids steal shit from Santa. Like the plot is a Christmas plot. Amazon had Candy Cane Lane. For some reason, I can't fucking remember the title of that movie. Which is about some people on a street that have an aggressive fight over who can decorate their yard the best, which is Christmas themed.
There's been so many Christmas movies with that exact concept.
Yeah, well, I mean,
oh my God.
At least stealing shit from Santa is new, like, and trying to hack into the bad list. Like, I'll give them that one a little bit of a leeway. Netflix was pushing the family switch.
I worry that we're all kind of disconnected.
Did you ask me something? What?
It's fine.
Okay, good night.
Wyatt, family meeting downstairs. Let's go.
Can you help me with this problem? I'm kidding. You can't help me.
No, I can't.
We are gonna make a happy memory as a family. I wish you could be me. I would love for you to be me for one day.
I would love for you to know what it's like to be me.
I would kill to eat a dozen donuts and just have it burn right off.
Would you take a picture of my family, please?
Everybody say Merry Christmas.
What are you doing in my bed?
You're in my bed.
Why am I in your bed, Mom?
What is happening? That's me. Cece?
Mom? Wyatt?
Dad.
Which is at Christmas, I guess, and mentions in the movie about Christmas, and it snows in Los Angeles at the end of it, which I know is not very realistic. But it's like the plot has absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's absolutely one of those. It's just like, oh, it's the next Christmas movie because Christmas happens in it, which is not true. It's not how it works. Everybody keeps trying to make new Christmas movies, but it's just not, they're not sticking.
Except for the holdovers, I will say.
We'll see. All right. We got it. I think to me, I was thinking about this too. I'm like, Elf in 2003, I think that's the only one that's like actually like gotten into the culture as a Christmas movie of the more recent movies. And that's 20 years ago. That's scary to say.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I heard you
family switch.
Hot take. Elf is just a pile of shit. Not a good movie. I don't.
But culturally, it got in there. That's all. Bad Santa didn't quite
Yeah.
stick as long, but Elf managed to get in. Family Switch, which stars Jennifer Garner and Ed Helms. It is directed by Mick G, or however you fucking
Mick
say his
G.
name.
I was just noting. Mick
Not a
G
real
is the
person.
director. Joseph McGinty.
Definitely
aka
not.
Mick G.
Definitely not a real person. His
No.
IMDb page says that he is famous for Terminator Salvation.
Yeah, I was
The
gonna say he
Babysitter Killer
directed-
Queen and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. There's no way this is a real person.
He's
they just assign his name to sequels.
He's also
the
known
studio
for
doesn't
Charlie's
like.
Angels. From
He did do
2000.
Charlie's Angels.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Well.
he
And
did the
also
bad
did
sequels, but he
This
also
Means
did
War about two top CIA agents that discover that they are waging an epic battle against one another because they're dating the same woman.
Yeah, not a
Starring
real
Chris
person.
Pine and Tom Hardy. Anyways.
Yes, he directed True Lies, the TV show, Terminator,
Oh, God,
the bad one,
fucking hate
and Charlie's
True Lies
Angel.
TV show.
From the writer that wrote Finding Nemo's sequel, Finding Dory.
What the oh, wow.
A
Prestige.
Shazam movie, Black Adam, and Rampage. And realistically, the most obvious thing, Yes Day, which also stars Jennifer Garner.
I watched yesterday. I remember your kids
Yeah,
made
your
me
kids
do that.
made you watch that one, yes.
God, I've never forgiven them.
And that tells you everything you need to know. It's Jennifer Garner's, I guess, just making these family movies. I don't know why, because she's got, Capital One commercial money. She's good to go.
Because everyone that does Capital One commercials is just a straight up whore. Like, none of these people need the money. It's Jennifer Garner, Samuel L. Jackson, Taylor Swift. Like, what are these people doing? Like, I don't know. They just do Capital One ads because they just need to be on TV all of the time. They cannot be away from the public discourse
There's
for a
no way that
microsecond.
you know more people that do Capital One commercials, Dixon. I just don't believe that you would happen to know who would be. What whore's in your wallets,
Hey, yeah, that
like,
next
is
yacht.
Sam Jackson, has he done enough Marvel TV shows at this point? No, he's still doing Capital One ads with Charles Barkley and Spike Lee and all these people. Like, what are you doing? Like, why do you keep doing these things? Like, none of these ads are funny or interesting, or like, why are you going to work to do these fucking Capital? I don't understand. I don't get it.
That next yacht isn't going to buy itself.
Taylor Swift is the most baffling one. It's like, how much money can
What
you
does she
possibly have? Like, she's doing all these concert films and albums and tours and stuff. Like, really, you're doing Capital One ads? That's okay.
Do you think there's some like there's probably some contractual like agreement where Capital One sponsors some stadium she played at, and she's got to scratch your back, I'll scratch your kind of thing.
I don't know, man. That seems a bit tangential. I don't know. I don't get it.
I'll pull us back to the family movie.
I want to briefly apologize for using the term whore, but sex worker does not apply in this case because they're literally it's just about the money. They're not having sex. So I don't know what else.
Sam
to
Jackson,
say.
You are not a sex worker. You're a whore.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god. All
right. We would try to rein it. I tried to rein it.
You can still rein it.
I rein it in with a movie. Okay. The premise of Family Switch is you haven't seen enough Freaky Friday movies, so here's another one. But it's more switches at the same time, so that's better, I guess. Again, like
Freakier Friday would have been a better title, I guess, if you're trying
except this isn't Disney produced, and Disney has all the Freaky Friday rights, I think.
Sure.
That's why they keep crapping those out.
Judging by the poster and the gradients used on the text, it's very basic effort.
Wasn't there a movie?
And they know what they're doing.
Was it called The Switch with Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
Was that what the name of the movie?
Was. I'm pretty sure
Is this supposed to be like adjacent to that?
I don't think so. I don't think. Yeah.
Jason Bateman to that.
This movie knows what it's doing too. It knows what it's doing. So they just really get you right into it with the family being like, "Oh, you don't know what my life's like. You don't know what my life's like." Arguing. They go to the Griffith Observatory. Something planets aligning, and they get their wish. And the next day, they've swapped bodies. The mom and the daughter swap, the dad and the son swap, and the dog and the baby swap. Which
Wait, does that mean
like,
the baby is like licking the floor and like lapping up water from the doggy dish? And,
yes, exactly.
Oh my god!
and the dog gets up on hind legs and immediately runs off.
Oh my god! What the fuck?
I have more questions, but please continue. I will ask them later.
Honestly, the baby dog thing, they just do like right at the switch, like, oh my God, they switched, and then don't come back to it, when that's the only thing that I'm like, was at least novel, that we could have done something maybe, or brought it back every once in a while. It pretty much just plays exactly the way you think. Weirdly though, I felt like when they get to, each of them has their big thing they've been working to, they each really fuck it up for each other. Usually in these movies, like, it turns out that they kind of can help the other learn something a little bit, like loosen up a little, or actually you need to be a little bit more strict, and that's what helps push them over the edge and help their other self. But in this one, they like honestly royally fuck up each other's lives. In their moment, where like Jennifer Garner is supposed to have given this big presentation, her daughter just fucking completely bombs. Like, she spills water all over her notes and then just doesn't do anything and fucking has to leave. Wow. The son is supposed to be applying to the university and has an interview for it, and Ed Helms just fucking tanks his interview by trying to be cool because he's a kid now. He also then like fucks up the relationship the kid is potentially getting into. Like, and then it afterwards, it's just like those things get kind of resolved anyway. It's like, oh yeah, even though you didn't actually play the soccer game like you're supposed to, you helped somebody else, and that's really why we want you on the soccer team. But I'm like, is this a good lesson? I don't really understand. Yeah, I'm like, I don't get this. And then somehow the son, as Ed Helms, now knows how to play guitar in the big show at the end, where Ed Helms and Weezer are a band.
I'm sorry, what the fuck?
I was a bit confused by that, and when it's supposed to be like, oh, here's our nerdy band, we're getting together, and I'm like, that's Weezer. Like, you got Weezer to be your backup.
So fucking what?
Yeah, so and it knows what it is, because when they switch, literally, they all walk out and they're like, oh my God, have we switched bodies? And like, this has absolutely never happened before. It's totally freaky. It's like someone got big overnight. It's like I'm 13 going on 30, which I was like, that's a Jennifer Garner movie. Like, we all know what we're doing here. Okay.
God damn it.
This sounds terrible. Do they all know that they have switched bodies? Or do they all think they're the only one that has switched and like
they immediately figure it out.
They all just plot.
Okay, so they assuming they all know this, the brother and sister are now in fully mature adult bodies sharing a marital bed.
Of course they are.
And
when they wake up, yes.
The children are now like, the husband and wife that have been used to having relations with each other. Do we see child fucking? Do we see adults being like, do we see incest happening between brother and sister? Like what do we see going on in this scenario?
Yeah.
I'm going to just
closer to the last.
I'm not the fucked up one for asking these questions.
Not.
The movie
you're not.
is the fucked
you're not.
up
I'm just going to say
creating the situation.
Up front before Ryan says anything that answers these questions. These filmmakers are cowards. These are fucking blatant cowards.
You have to take this to its logical conclusion.
Yes.
There has to be incest in this movie at some point.
That's the back of the box fucking quote.
I'm glad you brought this up. Yes. So brother and sister, now mom and dad, wake up in bed next to each other.
Yeah.
But one of them wakes up first and gets out of the room and freaks out. So then when the other one freaks out, they kind of don't see each other, I guess. And it's a movie, so everyone wears way too much clothing to bed.
Sure.
I feel like.
Yeah. But wait, how
like
long have they switched
clothing?
bodies? Like, you're like, they woke up and they didn't see. Like, is this just a day or like how long?
Oh, no,
it's
a few days.
Okay.
I think it's a few days.
So, no, they can't avoid, being together in the same bed.
Of course not.
Yeah, there's like an initial plot device where they're going to go back to the observatory, but then the telescope is busted because of whatever happened, and so they have to wait for that to get fixed, and then something about a lens.
Wait till the stars align again.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
Yeah, something about a lens, and they call Elon Musk's friend to make it or some shit. I don't remember. So yeah, they kind of then just avoid that. You would think they would just avoid what you brought up. And yes, they pretty much keep everyone separated, and so we kind of are just flashing to each person's storyline. But there is a night, and I think this is like the last night that they're all body swapped, where the parents' friends are over at the house unexpectedly. And so Ed Helms and Jennifer Gardner, but the kids in their body have to like entertain their friends and drink. Which is interesting. And then because
But
Ed
they have
Helms
adult
and the son,
bodies, so they should be able to handle it.
I guess that's
right?
okay. Well, yeah,
No,
I don't know. But
then they
the
get
kid
attracted
brains.
to each other, right?
Anyway,
Is that where you're going?
hold on. I'll get to that. And then Ed Helms in son's body knows that this girl that the son likes is going to be at this party. So he and the mom, as brother and sister, sneak out and go to the high school party and drink and
okay,
and hit on people.
How old are the kids?
Like teens, I guess. I think the daughter's about to graduate, so she's like a senior, and the son's like he's also applying to university. So I think they're both like junior, senior.
Okay, so like 15, 16, something like that.
Yeah, or maybe 17. Yeah. So then when the parents are at home, the friends start talking about marital problems and are like, oh, you guys can work through your stuff. Just kiss. Oh, you're under the mistletoe, kiss. And like keep egging them on. And I'm like, so the movie knows this is weird. We know this is weird. The characters know this is weird. And then they have an argument for a bit about like, it's just a kiss. Like, well, we are our parents. Like, what does that mean?
No.
It goes on a little too long. I felt like I got
do they like have an aside like, I'm sorry, you're chanting for us to kiss. We're going to have a private conversation. And then come back into the room and the people are still chanting for them to kiss?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I have to imagine. Like, I wanted to be the
enthusiastic of a crowd.
I wanted to be the fly on the wall to actually see the situation where the friends are sitting there and they're like, "Hey, you guys should kiss," and then the two people like stop and talk to each other and then go in another room and like whisper, and then come in and are like, "No, we don't have to," and you're like, "Yeah, you do." And then they continue to like chat about it for a little bit more, and you're like, "This is uncomfortable.
You know what
is going on in this relationship?"
You know what this exactly sounds like, Ryan, to me is somebody got caught watching incest porn, and they were like, "No, I'm like researching for like a movie that I'm writing," and then they were like, "But like, wouldn't it be like kind of hot if we weren't in our own bodies, but we were like brother and sister, but like in bodies that were married to each other? Then we fucking tried to kiss under the. It was like the mistletoe. It was totally. It just sounds like that, like somebody excusing a weird perversion they've always had in a Netflix form. It's fucking disgusting sounding, but god damn, that's rough.
That's it's weird. Yeah, it definitely opens up some major questions, and they do manage to like. They get awkwardly close. Like they start going in for like the uncomfortable kiss and get awkwardly close. And then something happens that allows them to like, oh shit, quick, and go away and not have to deal with it again. And no one talks to this ever again. Except in therapy years down the line.
Oh, certainly.
There has to be
some
conversation.
Well, we were switched in bodies and I just don't know how I feel about it anymore. She's my sister.
So. Yeah, she's my sister. And for many years after that.
Fourscore and many years later.
Yes. I almost kissed her. She's my sister and my mom.
I'm sorry, is that the name of a top
rhyming?
Title? Yeah, that was like
I thought you were going to keep going and rhyming.
I almost kissed her. She was my sister and my mom. And that was, it's the summer's top hit in 2024, folks.
Oh my God. I don't even fucking know what to do with this. Like, I
no
feel like
way
if this happened and they all realized it, there are a couple possible scenarios, and I imagine what happened is the scenario that would never happen, right? Where like everyone just stays in the beds that their bodies are assigned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, the parents that are now the siblings just stay sleeping together in that bed, but like, you know, staying as close to the edge of the bed as possible and like sharing bathrooms, but like not looking at each other. That's not what happens. Either you have everyone realize, okay, we have to all separate because this is fucked up and we can't have any sort of weird like sexual interactions or seeing people naked or anything. So we're all going to go to our separate places and like, I'll sleep on the living room couch. You go over there and like we sort things out. Or the more fucked up version of this, the kids or the parents move back into their bedroom in the kids' bodies and the kids in the adult bodies go back into their childhood bedrooms.
Is it weird that I would want to see what this would be like if Paul Verhoeven directed it?
No.
Oh yeah. No.
Starship Poopers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel like he would have a pulse on America. He would know how to satirize the shit out of this premise.
Oh man.
And I do wonder about kid movies push this whole don't ever go talk to authorities because the scientists are going to experiment on you or they're not going to believe you and they're going to put you away forever. Like that's kind of every movie, right? Like so often it's like, oh, we can't tell them about the alien. We can't tell them you got powers. We can't tell them we switched bodies. No one will believe us.
Because the government will want to know about you.
Yeah, they'll dissect us to figure out how to switch people's bodies, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not wrong.
But also you somehow just assume like essentially in this movie they're just like, I guess because we were standing under that telescope and
all the inferences.
Now the next day we changed bodies, not the instant we were under the telescope. It was the next day we changed bodies. That it must have been something to do with that, and then we can undo it somehow.
Yeah.
Even though we don't exactly know how we did it in the first place.
I mean, that's the Pleasantville logic. I don't know what the fuck the Pleasantville logic was beyond like, you just have to be authentic to yourself is all it really boiled down to. And here it's just like, I guess you have to like learn a lesson. How did they switch back? Like did we talk about that?
They go back to the telescope.
Oh, okay. And that fixes
and then everybody's there at the right time. And honestly, I was really hoping there's the Futurama episode where they switch bodies. I was really hoping that they all got back there, they get under the telescope, and then the movie goes to the next day, and they've changed bodies in a completely different configuration. Now there's men and women's bodies and women's and men's bodies, and the dog is the dad.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Fucking A. That sounds great.
Oh man, yeah. That would be a very good subversion to end the film. Is there any sort of like, holy shit, my genitals? Is there any sort of scene like that when they have switched bodies?
Like the Scooby-Doo movie?
Yeah. See, again, it's a kid's movie, so it's just like you have a tattoo? You didn't tell me you got a tattoo kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, the Scooby-Doo movie was a kid's movie too, Ryan. the live action one, and that had "I can look at myself naked" line in it.
Yeah, I think that is that PG or PG-13?
It's PG, my friend.
It's gotta be. It's PG. Okay,
it's PG.
Scooby-Doo gets to write a lot more lines, I guess.
it's probably
we give him leeway. He's from the 70s, you know.
The Jason Bateman Ryan Reynolds one, I think it was called The Switch,
which is called The Change-Up.
The Change-Up. There you go.
Because I looked it up, and The Switch is actually a 2010 movie. The Change-Up is 2011. Both starred Jason Bateman.
Oh.
But The Switch is about an unmarried 40-year-old woman turns to a turkey baster in order to become pregnant. 7 years later, she reunites with her best friend who's been living with a secret. He replaced her preferred sperm sample with his own. Jason Bateman is that friend.
Who is the female lead in that?
That's Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, well, there we go. Jennifer Aniston coming back again.
Wow.
The Change-Up, I saw that on Comedy Central way too soon after it was in theaters, and I remember thinking, yep, this is stupid, but at least it explores the R-rated aspects of a body switching movie, which would be the only thing that people would focus on if they switched bodies, to a person who was pre or post pubescent, right? That would be the only thing. Or just two dudes around oh, hey, my dick is different. What's going on here? They actually talked about that. I was okay, at least they did that. You know, there've been so many body switching movies where they just ignore this thing. And they oh, I can have sex as someone else. And I'm married, but now I'm single and I can have sex now with different people and stuff. It was again, not a good movie. Ryan Reynolds is in it. Of course, it's not a good movie. But it was exploring those ideas. If you are changing from someone who is a parent to a child, that has to be a shocking experience that only an R-rated movie can actually convey. The horrors that come with that, right? That's
yeah. You say that in more of a Blackmire way because you really channeled for a second there.
Only an R-rated movie can convey the absolute horrors of becoming your own father.
Anyway,
waking
pitch
up
5.
with a massive hairy dick that you've never seen before except in your darkest nightmares.
I do think you have something, though, that since we've already fucking exhausted the Freaky Friday situation so many times, actually having a horror movie come out, and there's so many you could explore, one person's nah, I'm not
there
going
actually
back.
Was one,
right?
A couple years ago called just Freaky. It was really aping that Freaky Friday thing, and it was with Vince Vaughn and a teenage girl. I'm blanking on the actress's name. Yeah. John's gonna look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
But yeah, it's Vince Vaughn is a crazy serial killer, and he somehow, I don't even remember the concept. I did see the movie, but I don't remember the concept. He switches bodies with this teenage girl, and she becomes the serial killer, and Vince Vaughn has to play a teenage girl. And it was fine.
Rob
it wasn't
Schneider's the hot chick.
It wasn't good.
Catherine Newton is the actor.
Catherine Newton. Okay, yeah. She and Vince Vaughn both did well given the script that they had, but it wasn't very interesting. But it was a horror idea in the sense that there's a serial killer involved, but it was more of a comedy than anything else. It wasn't a straight horror film.
I'm on Letterboxd. One of my friends gave a review that was 5 stars, and they said, "Incredible movie about the horror of waking up and realizing you've swapped bodies with a Republican."
I'm pretty sure I gave that brutal. 2 stars on Letterboxd. But while you're on it, check what I gave it, John. How many stars did I give that?
2.5 stars.
2.5. Okay.
No review at all. Just 2.5.
Yeah.
Dropped it cold. Well, there you go.
All right. Yes,
Family Swap.
Family Switch.
Family Switch.
Family Switch. Family Swap.
That's a reality show.
Wife Swap is a reality show.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, and that is a refute. So wrapping it up, it sounds like we have a recommend for You Can't Take It With You, a refute for Pleasantville, and a refute for Family Switch or the Family Switch or whatever the fuck it was called.
Ryan, I am actually tempted to watch the Family Switch. Are there any redeeming qualities in this?
How do you keep him away from this?
I mean, it's serviceable. I don't know that there's any redeeming qualities. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
For you Jennifer Garner fans out there.
I guess.
It sounds like you should not watch this.
Anybody that wants to see Jennifer Garner pretending to be younger, which, that's just sad. That's like...
She's also done this before.
Yes, she's already also done it.
Absolutely.
So, no. Stay away. I think the kids will also not enjoy it. So it's an all-around failure for everybody.
It does feel like Ed Helms is at a point in his career where he's just doing shitty family comedies. Like he did that awful Vacation remake.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, I don't know, like post The Office, it feels like he has just kind of not really found his niche after that. So I don't know. I don't know if Ed Helms is like, I don't know that I need more Ed Helms, but it does feel like he's just kind of stuck in this weird family comedy purgatory.
Yeah, really, there are certain actors, right? It's just like you get your shot and then you need to go, okay, Ed Helms, looking at yourself in the mirror. I think we're a second banana. I just don't think we should be taking lead parts anymore. I think we get to get some really good parts where we're the other person in it or, a side character, and that's just fine for us.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything looking at his filmography lately.
He did all 3 Hangover movies.
That is correct.
It's an ensemble.
He was an executive producer on a Futile and Stupid Gesture, which I really enjoyed.
Okay, I didn't see that.
I really liked it. But everything else that I am seeing him associated with, I'm like,
nah.
He was before The Office. He was a cameo in Arrested Development. And then after The Office, he was in season 4 of Arrested Development. And those are the 2 best things he's ever done.
He's been a composer on one film.
Oh, really?
In 2005. I guess it was a film he made himself or helped make with some other people. But he's listed.
He whistle his own new tune. You can get composer credits for that.
Something. But yeah. Cool. Refute for Family Switch, yeah?
A Refute, yes. And that will wrap us up for our first recommend or Refute.
There you
go.
I got it.
Hey,
I got it, everybody.
Of the new year.
You make me proud, Ryan.
I've been your host, Ryan or King. Joining us as always,
John Garcia. Everybody, don't watch Pleasantville unless you watched Green Book and you really liked it.
You're going back and watching Crash and Pleasantville, and we're just going back on a ride,
cruising through the old era.
Driving Miss Daisy.
Yep, there we go. All the feel-good whites-only movies.
And also joining us,
Michael and Dixon. Thanks for putting up with our bullshit.
Cut! That's a wrap, everybody. All right, bring in the social promo. Hey, who said you could have those craft services? Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.